Technical.
So welcome to the 19th session of Galactic News, which we are very happy to be with you again. And I'm glad to have all of you here. And we are going to talk a lot today about the changes going on the planet, the plans that are in place for the change in the financial system, what's happening politically, and lots of other things as well. So I'm sure you'll find it interesting as always. So we're going to begin. Corinne is here. I've asked her to lead the meditation. So she's going to lead our meditation for the morning.
Great.
So to begin. So thank you all for being here.
Great. Okay. Well, again, welcome everyone. And we're going to be doing a meditation on activating the codes of awakening. And the codes of awakening are the internal doorways to higher consciousness. And the reason we start with a meditation is to sort of calm down the field of everyone on the call and create a very powerful, receptive energy field to bring through the highest good and information that'll be inspiration to everyone. So that's very key. So I'm just going to invite you to take a few deep breaths as we focus on this meditation on the codes of awakening, activating the codes. Somebody's not muted.
Go ahead.
Okay, so taking a few deep breaths, just release everything. Let it all go with each breath. Allow yourself to be fully present in this moment, in this very moment. Feel your feet on the ground with each breath. And just release your third dimensional mind, your 3D mind, so we can go into the higher dimensions. Open your heart and just raise your frequency up to the 5th dimension by visualizing more light pouring in through the top of your head with each breath, more light. Filling your whole being, becoming lighter and freer with each breath. More expanded. Align your purpose with the higher plan of the Light Alliance, the enlightened ones on Earth and the Galactics, who are all here to assist us. Just feel their presence. Invite them into your space. Now hold in your hand the golden key of compassion, the key of compassion that unlocks the codes, the key of compassion. The codes that can transform the world. The golden key of compassion. See this key activating the codes of awakening that are deep within your cells, in your very cells, the codes of awakening. Awakening to the new transfigured world. With each breath, as you turn this key and activate the codes. This transfigured world energized by the Galactic Light Alliance. Ask for strength to contribute your purpose to this transfiguration of our world. And just experience the blessings of the light alliance and the light pouring into you with each breath. And just see it activating and protecting and blessing our collective energy field here as we explore this new information and inspiration. Okay, so again, just take a few deep breaths. Feel your feet planted firmly on the ground. And just release the connection. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to go off screen now while Gordon will continue. Okay.
Thank you. Great. Thanks very much. Okay, so here we are, another wonderful day of incredible exploration and new vision for the world as it is emerging on our planet, which is quite different than the world we've had, as you are all probably aware of at this point. So it's great to have you all here again. We have about, we're getting a large number of people, almost 1,000 or more, 1,600 watching this video over time on YouTube. So we're very pleased with the response, and it's continuing to grow and grow. So thank you for spreading the word and continuing to let people know what we're doing. So we're going to talk today first about pole shift. And the pole shift is something that we feel is very significant and needs to be brought forward because it helps us to understand what's really going on. Now, most people think of the pole shift, have in the past, the idea that the North Pole is going to shift with the South Pole and the world's going to turn upside down. That's not correct. That is a very physical, sort of material interpretation of the concept of pole shift, but it's not really what's happening. It's a whole different thing. Corinne, fix this, would you please? Put a book on that. Hold on. The pole shift is a shift in the polarization of the different planes. Up until now, there's been a sort of breaking down, destruction of the negative structures in the fourth dimension, the astral plane, which has been really very negatively polarized. So what that does is because of the ongoing response of humanity to all the light pouring in, this breaking down of the negative polarity on the fourth dimension is occurring. So we've now, because of the increasing light in response of humanity, we've passed and surpassed the critical mass point of awakening on the planet. That happened some months ago. So we're really moving forward now at a whole new level in a whole new way. It's quite different than what we've had in the past. So what this means is we're finding it easier and easier to hold a positive intention, to hold a positive vision, to continue to create positive reality for the world. That is becoming easier for all of us to do. And at the same time, the dark side, the cabal, is becoming harder and harder for them to hold a negative intention, because it requires more energy, more effort to maintain it, and it causes a burnout, and it causes it's not sustainable in the long term. That's what's going on. So we are now in a whole new cycle. The whole past thing of being able to maintain a negative focus very easily because the astral plane was very negatively polarized is shifted. It's no longer that way. Because of the awakening of light and consciousness in humanity, that polarity has reversed. Instead of a dark emphasis, a negative polarization on the astral plane, we have a positive polarization. That's really, really significant, because it means that the dark side cannot carry out many of its operations that it was doing before, because it takes too much energy and they can only do a few things, and it's becoming less and less all the time. So this is really important. It's because the critical mass has been reached. So the 5D frequencies are anchoring more and more fully on the planet, on the Earth, and that's really, really important. So that the 5D frequencies are coming in, and we as light magicians, light workers, are now able to use this energy in a way that has not been possible before. We have more and more mastery of the elements. The elements were held and controlled by the dark side when the polarization was negative. Now that it's turned positive, we have more ability to work with the elements. That means the manifestation becomes easier. Everything starts to flow more in our lives. It's all shifting and changing radically. This is definitely going on, and it's wonderful. So we've rejected a lot of the conditioning and false narratives that have been put forward all on and on for years, and we're beginning to, and there's a huge awakening going on within humanity. This is the core of our moment in time, which is really wonderful. But before this, we had to come into this world and work within that heavy, dark system, that all that energy field that was there. And because it was very heavy, it was like we were consciousness commandos, parachuted behind the lines to come in here and radiate light and open up the truth, open up the picture of reality to humanity so that people can understand what's going on in a whole new way. And that's really what's going on in this whole cycle now. We're really moving very rapidly. So one of the things that's important is not to become angry at some of the efforts that are going on by the cabal and the dark side to create problems, to do horrible things to the environment and to the war mentality and all the stuff about war and nuclear guns, all of it. We don't want to become angry about that, because that actually feeds the dark side. It gives them more energy, and we don't want to do that. We want to stay neutral to it. We want to observe it and know in our deepest level of our being that that is all underway to be changed and transformed. It is rapidly fading out, and it is, and we can see the evidence of that everywhere. So we're being awakened. We are awakening. The whole world is awakening. It's happening in all the different fields, and we'll discuss that in more detail soon. But right now, just to say we're being awakened at all these different levels. And this is really important. So now it's another thing that's really important is to recognize we have a function to heal Gaia, to heal the earth. That is really, really important. And it's really important for us to take a few minutes every day to be aware of Gaia, to be aware of the earth as our home. It is a very sacred place. It is our home. It is our world. And we want to protect it, and we want to maintain it and do everything we personally can individually to actually help support and meditate, sending love to Gaia, sending love to the earth, taking care of the earth around us. So it's really important to do this. Our population on the planet is growing. It's continuing to grow and grow and grow. And that's putting more and more pressure on the natural ecosystems of the earth. That's definitely a factor. And we don't pay much attention to that anymore. We've been told that, the earth can support huge numbers of people. That isn't really true. And that is all part of the shift that we have to make so that we can move out of this concept of this is my property. This is the whole thing about owning stuff, about maintaining it as mine. But in fact, everything here is Gaia's property. It is all Gaia. It is not ours. We are simply stewards of it. We are meant to take care of it, to love it, to work with it in a very, very beautiful, loving way. Now, there's a whole phenomenon going on that's very, very interesting that I want to talk about. And that is that there are certain people on the planet who are very addicted to power over. They want power over other people. They want power over the Earth and over Gaia. They just want to gain more power because they do not experience their own power within themselves, and therefore they try to gain power by exerting power over others. That is very much present on this planet. And we can have compassion for that inner emptiness that those people carry with them, and their desperate attempt to try to make them so. So we are in the process. There's a lot of beings still on the planet who want power over. They want power over the earth. They want power over other human beings. Those people are actually being carefully moved into a new dimension. What has happened is on the fourth dimension, the astral plane, there has been like a mock-up of Earth has been created. And people who cannot let go of the power over dynamic within themselves are being moved into that space, that place where they still think that they're on Earth and it looks a lot like Earth, and they continue to carry out those power dynamics, but it's completely disconnected from the Earth. It's all on the astral plane. So they're not really affecting the Earth anymore. These are the ones, the most deeply selfish, malevolent, who just do not have any idea about doing anything other than that for themselves. This is underway. This is really moving. And so we have where anyone with that intent is being moved into that space. So this is done in order to protect Gaia, but it's also being done to prevent those beings from creating more karma for themselves by carrying out these kind of activities. So it's a blessing to them too. But they will not be able to move into ascension, because that is on the second, third subplanes of the astral plane. They are not able to move into higher frequencies until they give up and discover their own power within themselves, and then, which automatically means they will stop trying to have power over others and over the earth. And there is help there for them to do that, but it's a process they have to go through. And in the meantime, they cannot ascend. They cannot participate and be part of Earth. Now you can say that, well, if that's all true, then why is there so much evil still going on the planet, and especially in relation to the environment and other things? Well, because this is a part of, it takes time for these things to happen, these processes to fully unfold and complete. But we're in a process with that. And gradually, this is shifting. So this is all part of the new thing that's happening here. So let's see. Does anyone have any questions you want to ask about this?
Type it in the chat.
You can type it into the chat if you'd like to ask something. Okay.
Tell them you check the chat. Right?
And I'll be looking at the chat as we go along. Okay. So the other thing then is what's going to happen to these people as we go through this process. The other thing that's going on is people are balancing out their karma. They are learning how they're dealing with the karmic results of things they've done in the past, and their karma is being balanced. So once that occurs and they're no longer stuck in that kind of situation, they have a choice. They can go back to their home world if they came from outside this planet, or back to the ships where they came from, and some will completely leave and go back to their home, and others will choose to stay in the body and be part of the team that's going to regenerate and rebuild the earth in this coming cycle. That's part of what's being worked on there. So that's good. That's all part of our future process as well. So then we have the other factor here is that because there's been so much greed and so much selfishness and harm done to the planet, many of us who would have left earlier have agreed to stay on here on Earth to help provide the light, to bring forward the positive vision, and continue to support the unfoldment of the earth and into the light, and not leave as some of us would have left earlier. But it's not, we've chosen to continue here for that reason, to help facilitate this shift and process. So now we are really looking at there's another very interesting factor here, which is the earth is, and Gaia, the being who is a living being, actually is a Lord, a Kumara from Venus, what we call the mother of the world, is actually a being. And she has this tremendous loving heart. And she has chosen to stay here beyond when she could have ascended in order to give as many human beings as possible the opportunity to wake up and ascend, and become more clear, purified, so that they too can ascend along with Gaia as she moves into this higher dimensional, fifth dimensional frequency, which is rapidly coming in. So this has made it a slower process, but a necessary process for this to happen. But even the darkest people, the ones with the most self-centeredness, they do have within them the heart, what the Light Alliance calls the heart of ascension. They have this deep inner longing to move into the higher realms, to let go of all the darkness and the 3D constraints, and it's been very, very difficult. I mean, we've come into this world as an extremely troubled, war-torn, crazy place. So difficult for people to function here in a higher way. And of course, so many people have fallen into the darkness because it's not easy to maintain the higher when this is going on. So that's been part of the challenge for all of us. So this is really what we're learning, is how to stay out of that darkness while remaining here and radiating the light, being a light bearer and for the world. That's what we're all engaged in here. And many of you are doing that, I know, and this is really part of the whole process that we're going through. What can we do, each of us, to heal Gaia? How can we heal Gaia? What can we do to help? That's really the key point, isn't it? So as we wake up to what's going on, we can connect to the core of Gaia, the heart of Gaia. And you get a tremendous energy from this. You get tremendous love and support and vitality to go forward with that energy that she's providing to us to do this. This is really a wonderful gift to us. And I think it's important that we realize that we can do that at any time, and it's available to us always. So, but there's some questions that Gaia would like to ask you about what you should be thinking about as you go through your day-to-day life. These are questions that you can reflect on and let things come to you as you're moving through your life in ways that you can serve. So how can you be a human custodian of Gaia? How can you be a human custodian of Gaia? How can you, as a human, help to rebalance planet Earth? How can you help rebalance planet Earth? What does planetary healing mean to you? What does planetary healing mean to you? This is a very important question. And how can you share that healing energy with Gaia? And I think that's really the key. These are very valuable questions. And the other point is, how can you share what you know, what you experience inwardly with other people so they become inspired to contribute to the healing of Gaia? That's very, very important to do, always, in every way you can, through doing things, through actually making little changes in your life in many different ways. So I'm going to give you a few suggestions, and many of you are already doing these things, I'm sure, and you are aware of the fact that this is important, and many, many people are doing thousands and thousands of good projects to help purify, clean, regenerate and support the environment all over the world. It's magnificent what's going on. So, so you can pick up things. When I go out walking, or when I walk along the beach or on the shoreline or anywhere, I always pick up trash. Picking up trash it's a sign of respect for and love for Gaia, that you don't want to see her beauty defaced by all this junk just left around. There are now people who have invented these devices, like little ships, small ships, that go out and in the areas in the ocean where there are massive, huge islands of trash, scoop up this trash and put it into the boat, and then they take it back and they use it as fuel for recycling centers or for burning it for fuel, all kinds of different ways they're reusing this trash. And this is young people have come up with these inventions, and they're doing it. And it's really exciting. And I love hearing about this. I've seen a lot of films, videos about it. It's definitely happening. You can drive a car with less pollution, of course, is always a great thing to do. Be more careful of all the pollution that you use. As much as possible, use alternative energy. And I know it's not always possible for everyone, but it's something you can do. You don't waste water, especially here in California. This becomes a very big issue, and it will be again, because we're now heading into another drought, it looks like. And to, of course, meditate for Gaia, meditate for her healing, for the uplift and raising of the energy of the earth. This is very, very important, all of these things. So, and telling other people about all this is very, very necessary. That's part of how it spreads. So, these questions, if we hold these questions in our consciousness, how can you help? How can you serve? How can you help heal Gaia? What does that mean? If you hold those in your consciousness, gradually things will come to you in your thoughts and your feelings about what you can do, what this means, and you will get answers and things that you can do to actually help. The other thing, of course, is to take time to really meditate every day. It's very good to take time to meditate and write down whatever it is you're receiving. Even when you're out walking around and you get an idea and a thought, it's really important to write it down, because it's so easy to lose the thoughts that come in at that higher frequency. Because when you're in that higher frequency, it's all very clear. As soon as you go out of it and you resume your day-to-day ordinary life, you're not in that frequency anymore, and all that disappears. And it's very hard to access and remember it, because you're no longer in that frequency. So it's very good to write down everything. When I meditate, I write down everything that happens and everything I experience and hear. And I think it's really valuable to do that. Or even just as you go about your day, you get inspiration sometimes, writing those down. It's really, really valuable to have a way of recording it on your iPhone, whatever you want to do. But that's really useful way to make sure that those soul messages are not lost. They're not forgotten, because it's so easy to forget them when you're no longer in that higher frequency. This is the thing. So this is important. So we're really working now on what is the most important things we all can be doing. Of course, meditation is key, as always. But I think you all probably understand these things, and I just want to see if there's any questions or comments about what I've been sharing at this point about this. Okay. All right, so I think that's, all right, here we go. Yeah. So there's some questions here. Okay, good. Can we physically see these beings that are transported to a mocked up Earth? Well, if you could access the fourth dimension, but it's the mock up of Earth is at the lower subplanes, the third and fourth subplanes of the astral plane. You don't really want to go there, because it's not a happy place. It's dense, it's heavy, it's dark. You don't want to be going into that realm. So it's not really that you're going to see them. It's not there. Okay, now here's some interesting questions. What are fifth dimensional ships like? Well, let's see if I can give you some kind of a description. First of all, they're made out of substance that is alive. It's not like metal where you bang a hand against it and it is different. It is a living substance which responds to the thoughts and feelings and energies of the people in the ship. It's alive. The ships are alive. This is really a radical concept. It's something new. I've talked about this previously, that the kind of buildings that we will ultimately have after we go through the shift will be alive in the same way. So it will respond to your needs and your thoughts and your feelings and all of that. And that's the same thing with the ships. So some of them are gigantic cities, and they are so large. Oftentimes, the reason we don't see them is because they hide themselves in clouds, but or look like a cloud because that's a cover. But also, they are operating from the fifth dimension, and therefore they don't necessarily are not visible to us. But sometimes when they do want to appear to humans, they will lower their frequency enough so they can be visible in 3D. That does happen as well. So now the issue, the next question was about the mother. Is she named Venus? Well, the general name that we as humans have applied to her is Gaia. And when I say she is from Venus, there are certain great beings from the planet Venus, which is considered in the deeper teaching as the higher self of Earth. Venus is the higher self of Earth. And from Venus came two great, what are called Kumaras, great beings, who came to Earth came to this dimension to create the Earth. And one of them is what we call the father of the world, Sanat Kumara, and the other one is the mother of the world, who is also a Venusian Kumara. I mean, these are beings of such immense scope and power we can't even hardly imagine. Sanat Kumara, as the father principle, gave the impulse and the initiatory energy to actually, and the plan for the creation of the Earth. And the female Kumara, Gaia, held the energy, the substance, in order for the forms to take shape. She gave her life and energy to creating all the forms that were in the consciousness that needed to be created on all the planes. So this is a being, it's like very hard to even conceptualize what this being is, but they are great beings who are, you can call, we say, when people say Father, Mother, God, that's who they're talking about. They don't know that, and they don't use this kind of language, but I'm trying to give you a little deeper understanding of what's really happened here. So they are working and have been working for the liberation of the planet from the beginning, and they are continuing to do so. And that is part of our unfoldment on Earth. So are people having more health issues? Well, what do you think? Of course. You could say that it's part of the process of purification, reorganizing our whole physical, emotional, and mental structures, and realigning it with a higher frequency. When these frequencies come in, everyone thinks, oh, it'll be wonderful, I get all these high energies and I'll be so happy. Yeah, you will initially, but when all that energy starts to come down through all your levels of your mind, your emotions, your physical, etheric bodies, and all levels, it can be very, very intense and difficult, because if there are any blockages, there are any old patterns of disease or unintegrated stuff in your system, they will all be brought to the surface, because the light comes in, it highlights and energizes everything, the positive and all the difficulties. So we have to cleanse and purify all that from our system. So that's, yes, there are a lot of people experiencing more health issues. And there's a lot of people who are learning to purify their system and create a new way of functioning so that they are not so, impacted by all these diseases. I would say that some of the things that are important for us to do is to, as I've said many times, regulate your diet. And I'm not talking just about your food diet, although that's important. And there's a billion people out there talking about what's the right diet. And there is no one right food diet. It's all depends on what's right for you. And you have to use your intuition to figure that out. But I'm talking about the diet of what you take in terms of ideas, what you take in terms of emotions and feelings, and the people you are with, the environments that you go put yourself into. Everything should be up for re-examination, for careful evaluation. Does this make me feel good, or does this make me feel worse? Is it raising my frequency or lowering my frequency? I've said this a lot of times, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's the key to getting into higher frequency, is learning how to let go of what's in lower frequency and orient your consciousness towards what is higher frequency for you. And it's different for different people, but it's an ongoing progression and continues to rise and go further and further upwards. So that's one of the ways we can deal with our health issues. And there are many wonderful new techniques to clear health problems, whether it's past life therapy, it's EFT, whether it's acupuncture and massage and chiropractic, and many hundreds of modalities. Each can be effective, depends on what is right for you. And that's where you have to use your intuition and sense into what's going to work best for you. And you can try something and see how it works. If it doesn't work, then you let it go and try something else. So, all right, so that's health issues. Do I write during my meditation or after?
Other people.
When I do.
No, they're asking what they should do. Do you write?
Do you write? It says, do you write? When I do my meditation, I write. I will ask a question, get an answer, and write it all down. And sometimes the answers are long, and so I write some down, then continue the reception of the telepathic input. So it's an ongoing, it's a dialoguing that it's like having a conversation and taking notes on the conversation. However, not everyone experiences it that way. Some people will just get, you ask something and you'll get an energetic hit, and then there'll be a certain level of realizations that come from that. That's what you want to write down. What did you realize from this energy that came in? It may come that way. It may not be words. It may be images. It may be just a knowing of something that's right or wrong for you. All these different ways it can happen, but they're all part of what is, how you receive information. And you have to learn what works best for you. Each person is unique. Some people get it while walking. Some people get it while singing. When, it can be anything. It doesn't matter, but it's being open, relaxed, able to receive, and attuning your consciousness to a higher frequency and learning how to hold that frequency long enough so that it actually brings in input. And of course, not all input is created equal. You do have to evaluate it, make sure that it is something true and right and good for you, and being aware that there can be sources coming in that are not positive, and you have to be aware of that as well. But all of that is part of what you learn as you work with higher frequency meditation work. Okay, how can we help young people who are freaking out about the planet due to climate change? Yes, that is a very good question, and I think it's very relevant for a lot of people. It's not just young people. I think what we have to keep in mind is that humanity thinks we're here, we're humanity on this planet, our little world with all our people, and we're doing our thing, and we're all alone, all here just on this planet, and we got to make it, and if we don't do the right thing, we're going to blow ourselves up or destroy the planet. That's not true at all. It's a complete illusion. It's an illusion of separation. We've separated ourselves in this little shell or box away from the life of the entire galaxy and all the galactic civilizations who are very active and present with us. Not only that, We have many, many great nature beings, angels and higher beings who are doing their very best to maintain the balances of the Earth's ecological systems, despite all the horrible stuff that humanity has done to the Earth. That's still going on, always. It's been going on. If it weren't, we would have destroyed the planet by now, for sure. But that's not the case. We haven't. So it's always constant work being done to maintain and offset the things that humanity is doing. Now, there is a lot of stuff about sea level rise and about the storms and the intensity of the problems with the climate. And that's all, I look at it as, it's like a warning flag. It's an alarm. Okay, guys, if you don't quit doing this, you're going to have more and more problems. This is the kind of system that's trying to tell us something. The mother is trying to give us messages. And some people are paying attention, and some people are completely blind and are denying that there's anything going on, and that's what happens. But we are beginning, many people are beginning to be aware of this and are beginning to take necessary action. We have in California, they're doing a huge study of all the coastlines, looking at how sea level rise will affect everything. And this is ongoing in other places, other states and around the country are doing this on the coast. And there's a lot going on around climate now. It's not the attempt to discredit the climate change truth has failed miserably. Even though we have people now in the EPA and some agencies who are completely opposed to even acknowledging it, it doesn't ultimately matter. They are a passing show. They will be gone in not very long from now, and all that will fade away, and people will be working very directly with beings from higher dimensions, talking about galactics, who do have the technology to clean up and purify the earth, the air, the oceans, everything. They do have that technology, and it will not be difficult for them to assist us. So this is really on the way. It's coming, but we have to be patient, and we have to do everything we can do to support that happening. Well, was the illusion of isolation or separateness created by the dark beings? Well, yes, they certainly foster it. They do foster it. But the real cause is, as a great lighted being, flying through the cosmos and having glorious experiences on all kinds of different levels and knowing the oneness of life and universe. And then suddenly you take on a body, and it's like putting on a diver's suit, and you go down into the depths of the ocean or this earth, and this pressure of the earth and all the weight of it and the heaviness of it. And you seem so real. You know, here's my hand and there's their hand. And it's like, oh, this 3D reality, it seems so realistic. Oh, yes, we're all separate. And then when you add to that the fear that's deliberately generated to keep people separate, in conflict, in fear of each other, that creates the world of isolation and separation. So it's both a product of incarnating into a body and the deliberate attempt to stimulate that sense of isolation and separateness and emphasize the differences and not the commonality. So all that is part of the trip. It's part of the trick, but it's being dissipated more and more. Now, as more and more people rise into the light and the energy rises, we become more and more focused in the light, in the higher oneness of life. That becomes more and more real for us. And gradually we leave behind that illusion of separation. It's just not there. It's not real. Okay? So as the Beatles said, I am you and you are me and we are all together. They were right. So let's see here. Okay. So I'm going to go on now and talk about some other things which are also very important. What I'm presenting to you is that we are rapidly moving into the predictions that I've been making for 4 or 5 years about how this is all going to unfold, how we're going to move into a new realm of light and a new realm of oneness, and all the control and darkness from the previous cycle are going to be swept away. We are moving along in that direction very steadily and beautifully. Humanity is doing great. We've passed the critical mass point, and we are moving ahead full steam. So now you can look at the current world situation and say, well, where does this show up in the world? And I want to give you some examples of that. Okay, how about a change of scene? Would you like a change of scene? Here we go. Let's have a new scene. Let's see what we could do here. That's very interesting. How about this one? Let's be with the angels a little bit. There we are. Let's have a little angel support here, right? Isn't that beautiful? I love this. So it's clouds. I'm not sure whether it's been photoshopped or not, but it is pretty impressive anyway. So here we have, what are the evidences that we're actually moving, that the Light Alliance's plan and the whole unfoldment that we've been talking about is actually occurring? Okay, let's look at this. First of all, we have this incredible rise in interest in meditation, spirituality of all kinds, and especially these worldwide meditations. I love it when these large groups of people get together from all over the world and they hold these meditations and they do wonderful work, bringing light and love and higher purpose into the world, into every area, and work on trouble areas and bring healing and love to those areas. All that is very, very important and very part of this new world that we're moving into. And then we have the ongoing work on reorganizing the financial system. There is a tremendous amount going on about all of this in terms of the organizing of the plans to move out of the old system and into the new. And I'll talk about this more in a little bit, but it's really moving forward rapidly. And there's a lot going on with this. Then we have the removal of corrupted leaders. There are a lot of leaders, and this does not get any press in the mainstream media, but this is happening, that people are being taken out from positions of power who are corrupted. This is going on, it's continuing. The Me Too movement, of course, is liberating women from sexual harassment and sexual imprisonment. And I want to read you something. Speaking of women, this is the most fantastic quote I have ever seen about women. And I think you'll probably enjoy this too. This is by William Golding, who is a famous playwright and author from England. He's no longer living, but here's what his final summation about women is. I just think this is the greatest. I think women are foolish to pretend that they are equal to men. They are far superior and always have been. Whatever you give a woman, she will make it greater. If you give her sperm, she will give you a baby. If you give her a house, she will give you a home. If you give her groceries, she will give you a meal. If you give her a smile, she will give you her heart. She multiplies and enlarges what is given to her. So if you give her any crap, be ready to receive a lot of shit. I just think that's one of the best quotes I've ever read about women ever. I don't know how you respond to that, but I think it's so funny and so accurate. So let's just keep that in mind about honoring women and really recognizing the incredible gift that they give to all of the world all of the time. It's so amazing. So that's women. And then we have the gun control movement, which is part of the ending of violence, the ending of the worship of war and death and militarism and all that. That is really important. That shift in moving away from the macho thing. I got my gun, therefore I'm safe. You know, it's all this psychological sickness that people think they're going to be safe if they have guns, which is, it's sad, but it's there. And now there's an ongoing movement. This is part of the financial reorganization, which is to remove debt slavery, because we are, this world and most of this people are in debt, one way or another. Credit card, mortgages, student debt, on and on and on. It's just debt, everybody. And it's part of the way the whole world has been manipulated through interest-based money and all the rest of it. All that is coming to the end of its cycle. It's part of the shift that we're going to go through, where debt is going to be eliminated, and that's all going to change. And I'll get more into this in a minute. Health and healing, the health and healing of all people, and the gradual moving away from allopathic crisis intervention medicine and moving into preventative medicine, preventative health care. That is the future. That is where we're going. It's moving more and more into the subtle levels of energy work and energy healing, which is the cause of so much of the problems that people have. All that is coming into play more and more. It's growing fantastically huge. And so then we have the empowerment of women, hallelujah, the empowerment of young people, at last, and the poor, giving the poor a fair opportunity to participate in the goods of this life and be able to have a decent life. That is so important. And one of the ways that this is being brought about is through socially responsible investment in business and finance, and really seeing that if you have money, your spiritual, moral responsibility is, and social responsibility is, to use that money for the highest good you can for the greatest number of people. And this movement, which I helped start, I was the first director of the National Association for Social Investing, is now got $7 trillion invested with some kind of social criteria. And that is a movement to make sure that money is being used consciously for good and not just for whatever we want to spend it on. This is really, really important. And this is coming along. It's really wonderful. So that's kind of some of the movements that are showing up that show the influence of the Light Alliance in the actual unfoldment of life. It's really, really helpful. Now we have this whole thing with the shootings in Florida and other things, and we have the shifts that are going on as a result of that, and the wonderful, beautiful thing about how the young high school students and junior high students are taking action and really making this an issue that they're using their energy and their passion to make a change. And they have made a change in Florida. They just signed, the governor just signed a law yesterday outlawing certain aspects, raising the age to own weapons to 21, longer waiting times, and a whole bunch of other things they've done to really toughen up the gun laws, going completely against the National Rifle Association, which is wonderful. And so that's all part of it. It's a really important thing. Now, there's another very interesting element here. I've gotten information that as part of the Day of Revelation, there will be a complete freezing or non-functioning of all weapons of war and killing. That will be part of it. All the weapons of all types will no longer function and will not ever again as part of that Day of Revelation. And what we're doing by the people now shifting their consciousness and their attitudes about assault rifles and all this horrible stuff, they are setting the stage and doing an invocation for that event to actually occur. We are, in other words, what can happen for us from higher levels is always a product of our own consciousness and our own choices and our state and where we are. As we move more and more into saying I just don't want this anymore, that will occur. And it will occur at such a level that it will not be possible for people to own those kind of weapons and have them work. They can own all they want, but if they don't function, they're not going to be much use to anybody. And I think that's kind of amusing when you think of the humongous amount of money has been invested. And I'm not just talking about personal weapons. I'm talking about military style weapons too. All of it. being frozen, not stop functioning, cannot be used. That's coming. And that's part of what we're doing as we're saying we just don't want to have this in our lives anymore. Thank you for whoever put up that quote. Oh, it's Ginger. Thank you, Ginger. Yeah, it's a beautiful quote. Make sure you have her consent to do all that shit for you. It's good. Anyway, so that's the gun thing. Let's look at the election prospects, I guess, because I don't want to get too far into this, but a little bit is that the upcoming election does look fairly positive for the Democrats taking over the House of Representatives. It's a chance. It's not definite, but it's a possibility. Now, of course, we cannot say that the Democrats are all pure white and beautiful and the Republicans are not. That's not accurate. But generally, the Democrats have a greater concern for the good of the whole and the condition of the nature kingdoms and Gaia than the Republicans. And this is a very interesting phenomenon. I want to talk more about that. And we will see ultimately. So there's a reasonable chance that we will see. Definitely, the Democrats will probably win back some seats. What will happen actually, we don't know. But ultimately, this is leading towards the elimination of all self-serving people in Congress. That will come about. And that will be due to a new set of requirements for running for office, which means you have to be shown and proven that you can operate for the good of the whole, the good of all people, and no longer just for your own benefit and for your own interest and ego. That's really part of what is going to happen, and it will. So how about I change the scene once again? Let's see, something new and different. How about this one? We all know how important this is. Meditation. There it is. We need meditation as much as possible, and that is part of what we will be seeing.
That's how you get your information.
And that's how I get my information. And that's the way I think anyone can access that ultimately, but you have to learn to quiet the mind totally and move into those higher spaces, but it's possible. So let's talk about the person I least like to talk about, but does need a little bit of attention here, and that's our fearful leader. There is some, now there's things very interesting about Trump. You know, Trump he's obviously at a very low level of consciousness, that's for sure, in terms on the service to others scale. He's way, way down on the service to self side of the scale. That's the measurement, by the way, that the Light Alliance uses to evaluate a person's level of consciousness. The more you're serving others and serving the whole, you are serving the higher good. And of course, that is serving yourself, because you are generating positive karma for yourself. The experience of giving and helping is so great and so rewarding compared to this experience of getting it for yourself that it's a no-brainer that you would want to help other people if your brain's functional. Of course, a lot of people, that's not true. So this is, but what I got about him is very interesting, that there has been some movement within Trump towards the light, but he's still unreliable. He is in the process of turning towards the light very, very slowly, but he has many detriments due to his psychological problems. He has serious psychological problems, as I think anyone who knows anything about psychology can observe. The poor guy is so insecure and so completely lacks any sense of internal power. He has got to constantly manipulate, control, and dominate, and all the rest of it. And that is based on a deep, deep inner psychological weakness, insecurity, and fear of being discovered to be empty. And that's all there. He knows that the cabal exists, but he has no idea how to effectively oppose them. Now here's an interesting part. He is against environmental regulations because as a businessman, he sees them as controls and onerous, interfering with his and other business people's freedom to do what they will in order to make money. He ignores the focus on the health impacts of all this pollution and doesn't even accept them as real, including climate change. He is like many wealthy conservatives. He is resentful of any limits on his so-called freedom. And I went into this in the previous session. Psychologically, the reason that the wealthy people are so against any kind of controls of any kind is because they see them as limiting their freedom to do whatever it is they want. And because they have so much money, they can do pretty much what they want. And they don't want anybody telling them what they can't do, because they just love the sense of, I'm powerful, I can buy, own, sell, do whatever, anybody and anything. That's what makes them run. And so they really dislike any kind of limitations, regulations, control. That's why they're also against regulations. It's a psychological mindset. So he is, but there's people out there on the internet saying Trump is leading the shift to the new financial changes and the revaluation of currencies. As my feedback is, this is completely unreal. Trump at this point is only cooperating about 25% of the time with the Light Alliance and doing many things against the plan, such as tariffs, which are a stupid and misguided effort, and of course, doing horrible stuff to the environment. They just showed a video of him a couple of days ago signing this, all these people gathered around, and he's signing this bill with great fanfare that now allows mining companies to dump all their waste in the rivers, rescinding an order that Obama had put in place. So now they're proud that they've allowed mining companies to dump more waste in the rivers. Isn't that lovely? I mean, what kind of mind functions like this? It's as I said, they don't want any control, any regulation. We're going to do whatever we want for our own benefit, and the hell with everybody else. We don't care. That's their mindset. It's like, that's incomprehensible to many of us, but it is there. And then there's this big la-di-da about Ivanka Trump. And she is only marginally committed to a higher good, but she's imbued with the exploitive, selfish ethic of her family and her class. There's just an unconscious embodiment of, I'm getting it for me. I'm going to make my brand the greatest brand in the world. I'm going to sell my purses and my shoes all over the world and use my father's presidency to do that, and on and on. And Jared and all of them, and Trump Jr. are trying to manipulate loans coming in to prop up their debt-ridden, decrepit real estate empire. It's not going to work. It's all going to come crashing down. And that is a result of our dear brother on the front lines, Robert Mueller, who is in there, and he is the impeccable warrior. And my God, he is doing so much work that is so incredible. And he's collecting evidence, and he's got it, between the collusion between Trump, his team, and the Russians. And not only that, all the financial dealings that they've had with the Russians and all the rest of it. And this evidence will be presented to the public at some point. And what I'm getting is the political consequences are unforeseeable, because we don't know if the Democrats are going to be controlling the House or not, and all this kind of thing. And of course, his lackeys will be supporting him to the death, but it's going to have massive consequences. What I've been getting off and on is he's going to resign ultimately, because there's going to be so much of an uproar against him that he and Pence that they will resign. So we'll see if that comes about. And I like, somebody says, we're all turning and moving towards the light. Yes, indeed. Thank you for that reminder. It's really good. And so here we are. So what are we going to do about the financial system? You know, there's been a lot of stuff written and said about this for a long time. So I'm going to try to explain to you something that I think is valuable for you to know. There was a proposal put forward quite some years ago, decade or more, called NESARA, which was the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. And there was also one called GESARA, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. So it's GESARA and NESARA. Both of them were initiatives in the past. They were acts actually created, legislation, never passed, but it never ultimately signed and culminated. But there's another plan that's been created by the Light Alliance, which I've been explaining to you for years, if you've been listening. And people have put the name GESARA and NESARA onto that plan because it's something they're familiar with. But there's some differences between what the original plan was called GESARA or NESARA and what actually the Light Alliance is planning on doing. But what's really going on is that the whole thing is shifting into a new plan that I've shared with you before, but we're going to touch on it a little bit. So the cabal has been completely prevented from infiltrating this plan for financial reorganization and the revaluation of the currencies. And they've tried to get a hold of it and get into it and turn it to their own events. They've been completely blocked from doing that. There is still, of course, cabal influence in the government and media and banking and corporations, of course, but it's rapidly waning. And as their people are removed and their activities are being blocked and exposed, they're losing their power. They said now they've lost about 65% of their control that they had over the entire system of the world. 65% of the control has been lost. That's great. And it's steadily continuing to lose more and more. So, so what is actually the, okay, let's just deal with a couple of these questions because they're relevant to what I was just saying. Yes, Mueller is, okay, the question is Mueller protected energetically and physically from harm or removal? Yes. I mean, I think he's protected from removal by virtue of the fact it would be such an incredible karmic blowback if he tried to take Mueller out of that position, that it would not serve. They don't dare to do it. I don't think that's what I'm getting. And energetically, yes, he does have protection, of course. If Trump and Pence resign, that puts Ryan in the presidency. Is he a problem too? Yes, he is. He's a major problem. He's a panderer. He's a coward. He's nothing. He's not a person of any kind of integrity, despite what some people might think. And he will not be an issue. One way or another, he will not become president. It's not going to happen. And I don't even know if this whole thing of shift in the who occupies the Oval Office is going to happen before we have this huge shifts going on in the whole system, which is the day of revelation. So we'll see. Yeah, so someone's asking about Puerto Rico, and someone's saying, is that government? People are saying because that government has been corrupt. Yes, very corrupt, as has been proven. So there is that stuff going on, which is exposing the corruption and the lack of delivering any real services to people and just stealing all the money. That's been going on, of course, and now it's all coming out. Unfortunately, people are suffering. It is always going on. There's these karmic loops that are being worked out, and people are being able to work off their karma from these things, and that happens. Okay, so now about the Q posts. Yes, I do have something on the Q because they asked me about this last time. They said the Q posts are not reliable, as some of them are false because the sources within the military, which it is coming from the military, are compromised by the cabal who still are present within their ranks. So it's saying that, you know, there's some truth in it, but there's a lot of things in there that, and I read through it, some of them, and you know, you're reading along and it sounds good, and then you come up to this weird stuff. I don't remember what it was or something. It just doesn't resonate. It seems whacked out. It's off. And I have my own truth meter inside of me, that registers things when they're on and they're off. Every one of us needs to develop this. So you have to learn, practice reading stuff and think, well, does this really make sense? Does this really sound like the positive military? Does this really sound like something else? Does it instill fear? Does it make the cabal look more powerful than it really is? Does it try to break down certain people? I mean, it's like you really have to look at it very critically in order to be able to not get influenced in ways that are not good and not true. I'm working on it. So that's what I have about the Q thing. I know a lot of people put a lot of store by it, and they think this is a whole new level of revelation, but I don't get that it's a super reliable source. The super reliable sources have to become your own inner alignment. What do you feel is real and true about what you're being presented with? That's what you have to look at. And that's what you have to learn to work with that and trust it and feel into it and test it out and see how things work when you do go with something or don't go with something. That's really important. Okay, yes. Okay, will the border wall be defeated? I don't have an answer for that, but I mean, that is a multi long-term project. My sense is by the time they ever get around to trying to build it, this world is going to be so different. Everyone's going to be laughing at the idea of building this wall. Really, I just don't think it's going to ever come about because of the long time frame and all the rest of it, and the resistance that exists to it. Okay, financial reorg. Will there be a forgiveness of debts, including mortgages? That indeed is the plan, and I'm going to go over that in just a moment. How will they be eliminated? Okay, what are the Q posts? Are by a username Q, and somebody's explaining that. You can go on the website and see them.
On the chat.
Yeah, someone just explained it on the chat. But see, there's new stuff coming out every day. There's this woman who's putting out all this information. She's a hypnotherapist, and she gets her clients going to hypnosis, and they start telling her what they're going to experience in the future. And there's a certain amount of correlation with what I'm saying. Some of it is very, very resonant to what I'm saying about how this is all going to happen. It's going to be a huge energy shift. People are going to go through huge transformations, and the world's going to be different. We're going to all move into the fifth dimension. Some of it's really good. And then some of it's really not good. It's not right. It's off. And I don't want to get into all the details of which is what. But so every day there's new stuff coming up because, hey, it's a fertile field. If you get people enough excited about what you're offering, you can make tons of money. I'm not making tons of money, but I don't care. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to help you learn how to discern what's real and not real, and develop that sharpness of loving, compassionate evaluation. That's what we need, all of us. Okay, so okay, boy, you got to read my book, dear. Whoever asked this question, Charlotte.
Repeat the question.
Can you describe who and what comprises the Galactic Light Alliance and what their motivation is in helping planet Earth? What is their goal? I'll give it to you in a couple of sentences, but honestly, you can go into Amazon, buy The Transfiguration of Our World, my book, and you will get the whole picture of that answer to that question. It's more than you could ever imagine. You'll get the understanding of it. It's very important, I think. Of course, my book. But the basic, in a nutshell, we are surrounded by civilizations from all over the galaxy who are here supporting us in our transition from third dimensional reality into 5-dimensional reality, which is from the limitations and darkness of all the separateness into the world of light and unity and oneness. It is a very, very complex transition, because you see how complex our world is, and everything has to be moved up into a higher frequency, and there's been massive resistance against that happening for millennia by the cabal, the dark side, trying to prevent that transition and ascension. But it is moving forward. It cannot be stopped. It will not be stopped. It's already well underway, and there's many, many steps and stages to it. And I suggest you read my book and you'll get the whole picture of what this is really all about. And my book's not hard to read. It's not complex abstractions. It's really down to earth. Okay? And they are kind, loving, and helpful beings. Absolutely. They are embodiments of what we are becoming. And they are our brothers and sisters. And they will come to, ultimately, we will be part of the Galactic Light Alliance. Earth and all inhabitants who are still here will be part of that alliance. We will be free to travel through the galaxy, share what we have learned with other civilizations who are going through a similar process as we are. And one of the most important things that we've learned here is how to deal with huge differences. Because people on this planet come from all different places and civilizations in the galaxy, different histories, some evolved on the moon, some evolved in other systems. We are learning how to bridge all those differences and find ways to unite in spite of them. That is a lesson that will be of tremendous value to civilizations all over the galaxy. And that's part of what we will bring when we are free and travel throughout the galaxy, which is not that far off. So let's keep that in mind. All this travail and struggle and horror we've gone through is part of something we've learned that is of great value to every other civilization that's going through similar things. Okay? So, when is your new book coming out? Okay.
Repeat the question.
When is my new book coming out? Yes. Well, folks, I thought I told you this, but I'll tell you again. My decision was because, and my feedback from the higher levels is because what I'm dealing with is directly connecting to where are we in the process of our transfiguration moving forward into higher levels. And that's constantly changing every minute, every day. New things are happening, new things. So if I write a book based about and dealing with that, by the time the book is finished, published, and comes out, it's going to be grossly out of date because every day new stuff is happening. Rather, it's much more useful for me to put the energy into this presentation right here and give you the latest things that I'm receiving on what's happening right now so that you have that as it's happening so that you can use that in your understanding of what is happening right now. So here is in Ginger, I assume, has put up the link to so if you want to buy the book that exists, it does give a fantastic, he said modestly, overview of the whole process of the transfiguration, how we got into this mess, how we're getting out of it, and where the vision clearly of where where we are going. And we already have achieved some of the things in that book, and many of the things are very much in process right now as we speak. And the thing I wanted to say, yeah, books are obsolete. And you can get it from the library. Very good, wonderful. That's a pretty progressive library you got there. Are the 18,000 sealed and diamonds and fellow quests across the nation genuine? I haven't asked that specific question, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are. Because there are a lot of people who were involved with the dark force. I'm talking about the reptilians who founded and started the whole dark control mechanisms on the planet millennia ago and have been part of helping to build and keep those systems going. Humans, and there are human hybrids who were interbred with those reptilians, and there are those still remaining on the earth. They're not taken off. Only the ET reptilians and other negative ETs have been removed. Those people are still here, and some of them, and there have been a lot of cooperation. So 18,000 does not sound like a huge number if you're really trying to remove those who have been actively engaged in supporting the cabal. Yes, I think that's realistic. I haven't checked on exactly how many, if that's exactly correct. I will do that before our next presentation. That's one of the advantages of having a presentation every month, so you can keep up to date with what the questions are.
Is there anything you didn't finish?
Yeah, there's a lot more to talk about.
Quickly.
Corinne says quickly. Oh my goodness. So basically, the key points of the new financial reorganization are these. And this is this is now being presented as the JASARA Global Economic Security and Reformation Act, but actually it's the program of the Light Alliance. And I've left out a few things they put in there that do not resonate with the Light Alliance. So it's basically new technologies will be released, free energy will be available, rejuvenation centers for all will be there, cancellation of all credit card, mortgage, and bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities, including student debt. This is the Jubilee, a period when all the debt is forgiven. There is an historical precedent for that. Abolishing of the income tax, and instead we have a 15% flat tax rate, like a sales tax, on non-essential new items that will provide revenue for the government at the federal, state, and local levels. Food and medicine will not be taxed, nor will assets such as old homes. Increased benefits for senior citizens, return of constitutional law, and I'm not going to go into what all that means because it's complex. Monitoring of elections and prevention of illegal election activities by special interest groups, mainly the wealthy elite. Creation of a new U.S. Treasury currency backed by gold, silver, platinum, precious metals, and commodities. That's absolutely going to happen. And the initiation of a new U.S. Treasury banking system in alignment with constitutional law. What I've gotten about that is there will be loans made to support businesses, not with interest, but for a fee for the use of the money. And you pay it back, but you don't pay interest. Elimination of the Federal Reserve, hallelujah. Establishment of peace throughout the world. Release of unprecedented prosperity packages with enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. That's already underway, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. Release of thousands of patents of suppressed technologies that are being withheld, which will include free energy, anti-gravity, and all kinds of other amazing technologies, which will transform our life. So right now, we're still in a period where we need money in order to rebuild the planet. That's coming through the revaluation of currencies. I don't know how many of you know about this, but there are certain currencies, if you hold them, you will be able to, in the not too distant future, redeem them for a tremendous amount of higher rates than they are even on the face value. And that money is intended to go into the hands of the light workers around the world and be used to rebuild and regenerate and support every kind of humanitarian environmental project that exists. And this is going to happen. It's already very close to fulfillment, and that means a massive amount of money is going to be released to support every nonprofit good group, every kind of environmental program, and poverty relief programs, and rehabilitation programs. Everything is going to just be massively funded. That's the beginning of the new world coming into full manifestation. All right. Okay, we'll be in San Mateo. I'm not going to be in San Mateo this year. I just got too many things going on. Okay, China's rule for life. That's a good one. I was going to talk about that anyway. Let's talk about that a little bit. Xi in China is cooperating with the Light Alliance in about 90% of his decisions. He is very much influenced by the White Dragon Society. I don't know how many of you know about that. It is an ancient brotherhood, sisterhood in China, directly connected to the Light Alliance. Many of them are very hundreds of thousands or even thousands of years old, I don't know for sure, who have been guiding and advising Chinese leaders for a very long time. He is being guided by them. He is plugged into the Light Alliance through that, and he is a key leader of the Light Alliance. The proposals for the One Road and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank are all aligned with the plan, and he knows something about the larger plans for the Light Alliance. Putin has gone rogue. He's no longer working with the Light Alliance. Ultimately, he will either cooperate with the Light Alliance or he will be removed as the plan unfolds. So the reason, let's talk about North Korea. The reason North Korea is now willing to consider negotiating an end to its nuclear program is due to their experience at the Olympics of being accepted, of seeing an opportunity for world approval. And then you think about Kim and his psychology. along with the reduction of fear of the United States. One of the fundamental things that people do not know, or most do not know or remember, is that during the Korean War, the United States bombed Korea back to the Stone Age. They just about completely destroyed the country. There were years and years of starvation. They destroyed every kind of bit of infrastructure, and it was a horrendous period. And that is why North Korea is so terrified of the United States and why they would develop nuclear weapons. Kim just made the statement. He's saying that they are willing to reduce their nuclear program if their security can be guaranteed, and that is a completely rational and legitimate statement. They have this fear of the US in the subconscious based on what happened previously. Nobody references this ever, hardly, but it's there, and it did happen. It's not propaganda. So that's one thing. So humanity. All right, let's see. I'll see what the question is. Okay. Do all the dark forces have to be removed before the RV can happen? No, they do not. They are losing power every day. Their ability to penetrate into the plans for the RV has been blocked. They cannot do it. They've lost so many personnel. They've lost so much credibility. They've lost the power. And going back to where we started this conversation, the shift in the fourth dimension from the negative polarization on the astral to a positive polarization on the astral has changed the game. They don't have the power. They can't draw on that negative field of energy to institute all these horrendous initiatives where they were trying to block everything and kill people and do all this horrible stuff. They can't do it. They've run out of energy. They're running out of energy because they can't draw on that negativity. And the positive energy is now predominant. That fires us up, gives us energy, the light people, and they find it harder and harder to do all this horrible stuff. That's why they do not have to be removed for us to have the RV. They're being neutralized. They're waning. They really are waning. We really got to get this. Don't worry about them so much. They're going to be out, and that's great. All right, so now I'm going to give you my final summary statement here that I was given to give to you from direct. So just to relax and take this in and see how it resonates. Okay. So here's their statement to you.
Who they are.
They is the Galactic Light Alliance through the master that I work with. Humanity has traveled through a long, dark night in a world where dark powers and forces made the experience a pressurized evolutionary growth process for all. Some fell into the darkness and others became shining lights of truth, compassion, and spiritual vision. Within all beats the heart of love and light, however obscured, and this steadily evolves to recognize the light within each living being and to express that light and love to the world. This time is the greatest moment of human awakening, and each and all are given the opportunity to make a change to align with the light or align with the dark worlds. Each will be presented with the results of their choice for their education, unfoldment, and opportunity to contribute to the great transfiguration of Gaia and humanity. The great shift is upon us all, and each is moving within their own self-created destiny, precisely correlated with their achieved vibrational frequency. The time for hesitation is over, and the time for living your life in joy and abundance is now. Rejoice in the fullness of your being and the joy of Gaia, as she and all her beloved kingdoms of nature, along with humanity, move into the unobstructed higher dimensions of living light, love, and spiritual power. That's what their message is to us. I hope that's inspiring. I hope that's been inspiring for you. And we are really blessed to have all of you with us and to be able to be with us. And just to remind you that we are supported solely by donations. So if you would like to make a donation, Ginger has put up the little link to be able to donate on our website. And I will, Gus is, who is the founder of ET Let's Talk. Great to have you here, Gus. We will print that inspirational message here. Ginger, can we get that done? I don't know if you can do that easily.
Not right now.
And do we have to do it before we close the meeting? But we can email it to all of you who are on the email list. How about that? That's a little easier. And yeah, okay. Ginger will put this on the email to all of you, notifying you about the replay, and tell your friends that this is a place to come for some reliable, useful, hopefully enjoyable, uplifting information about what's going on our planet and in the galaxy. And here's my beloved wife who's going to say something wonderful, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, just a reminder that our next session will be April 7th. So please join us for that. And it's great you can all be with us. So keep aligning with the Light Alliance and with your higher purpose. That is what the contribution we each can make. So thank you again for being with us, and we'll see you on April 7th.
Yes, and I appreciate your feedback. If you think this is good, I'd love to hear about it, just so I know and if I'm anything that you would like me to say or focus on, or things that are more of interest to you, that is always helpful for me to orient these sessions towards what is really going to be of use to you, because that's my goal, is to make sure that what I'm giving you is of value. So thank you for your wonderful comments, and may you all live long and prosper.
Yeah.
And enjoy this incredible process that we're going through, which is probably one of the most incredible times to be in a body on planet Earth in our entire human evolutionary history. And here we are doing our very best to be part of it, to raise it, to work with it, and contribute to it in every way possible. And I thank you all for your interest and your dedication, and let us continue to do everything we can to live the future now.
Yes. Just keep being in the present moment and take each next step as you're guided inwardly. Okay?
Yes. Okay. So thank you, everyone.
Blessings, everyone.
Yes. Thank you so much for your feedback. I appreciate it. It keeps me going. So I know that I'm doing something useful here. All right. So we'll go ahead and close. And again, I don't want to close yet because I'm getting all this good feedback. I love it.
We want to thank Ginger for her technical support.
Yes, and Ginger,
great.
We couldn't do
and
any
all
of this
kinds of
without Ginger.
Spiritual support too.
Ginger is the hidden presence behind all of this, and she is doing so much on so many levels, not just technical, but she is an incredibly spiritual being who brings tremendous light and dedication and insight, and she advises us, and she's extremely insightful about everything. And I just love Ginger so much. We love her so much, and we think she's the greatest. So you're all the greatest. So thank you, all of you, for all that you are doing for the world. And let us continue this until we are all living in the glories of the one life in 5D.
Yeah. Keep that regular meditation, because that'll get you attuned to it.
Yes.
To the fifth dimension. That's where we need to be.
Yes. All right. All right. Blessings. Okay. All right. We're going to go now. We'll be in your heart, and you'll be in our hearts, and we'll be in your hearts, we hope, and we will continue to be in touch, and eventually we will be communicating without the need for this whole mechanism here, and we'll just be telepathically communicating. But we're not there yet, but we're moving towards that, and that will be what we will ultimately experience. So thank you all so much.
Right.
Blessings and love.